By the rivers of Babylon, yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh, by the rivers of...
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai. We are one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, BINAH. We are located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York, giving all glory, honor, and praise to the Most High God, King of the universe, Yehudah, thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for life, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and thanking you all for once again joining us on this day. Early Shabbat Shalom to all of you. And I pray that the Creator of heaven and earth will continue to bless and keep each and every one of you. Shalom, shalom. So at this moment, today we will be going over, giving due respect to the leader of our congregation, even my brother, Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Yissaskar, thanking the Most High God for his life, the life of his family, his household, his all those that he loved, and to all the elders within the community. We pray that the Most High God be with you all the leadership. Pray that the Creator be with you all and bless you. So at this time, we're going to move straight ahead, and now I'm going to pass it on to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, even Nasik Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah, who will be going over the portion of reviewing the portion Shelach, and also going through the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 7. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, let's give praises to the Supreme Tongue Universe, God of my forefathers, God Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Due respect to the platform I'm on, D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Yissaskar, to the host Chief Uzael, to the Prince, Chief, Cornine, Rabbinate, brothers and sisters, I greet you all in the tongue of my forefathers and visitors. Shalom Aleichem and an early Shabbat Shalom. I will be finishing up with the Ecclesiastes, concluding this particular session with Ecclesiastes 7 chapter. I'll be highlighting some points from the Sidra Shalach, or Shalach Lekah, which some people just say Shalach, and then I always emphasize the Shalach Lekah, as I would try to elaborate as we go forward. And it covers from the 13th chapter of the book of Numbers, the first verse, and it concludes all the way to the end of the 15th chapter, the book of Numbers. So, though we got 3 chapters that covers this, it's a lot of impact of a lot of things that's being enumerated within these 3 chapters. We just finish off with Baha'alotheka, and the last major thing is that Miriam was put out to camp, and then after she came back in the camp, they journeyed to Haserot and pitched, in the wilderness of Paran. So that's where we left off at. In the last portion, where we had a lot of issues there. So now we at the point in this point in time in history. I focus on about the trumpets. I focus on the marches or orders from the previous chapter, how we're supposed to march and disassemble, and our first major movement from Mount Sinai with the tabernacle intact, and and should be a renewed spiritual people. So now we come to this point. God was ready to have us to go into the land. So now we at the 13th chapter. First, I just want to bring out a few points. I know a lot of y'all heard quite a bit of this from the various teachers that follow a regular Sidro, and those that haven't followed Sidro, that's familiar with scriptures or already have some knowledge of this particular portion. When they say they sent out the spies, when Moses sent out the spies. But in this case, I like to try to highlight some unique features, that I find. Highlight just a few of the unique features that within in the scriptures itself, that sometimes we won't look at as saying where was the pivotal point, and how dire was this movement in this particular portion, that we know that this particular section is where we get the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. So our plans to go in, say, tomorrow was derailed by today. So as I start in the beginning of the 13th chapter of the book of Numbers, and the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Send thou men, that thou mayest spy out the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, every one a prince amongst them. All right. So the word Shalach means send, and it's in an imperative. But in the Hebrew, when the Creator told Moses, he said, Shalach lekah, send for yourself. So one, I like to focus on the opening. Since send, Shalach is an order, an imperative. A sawuri, as we say in Hebrew, for the verb, sholach. So, or shalach itself, which is the past tense as well. One of the things to say, well, why is it that this is the first time we read in scriptures, that God would tell and give Moses, an order that he has an option to, because normally when we read in the beginning, thou shalt not, take the name of the Lord of God in vain. Thou shalt not have no other God before me. We read about thou shalt remember the Shabbat. These are not options. Thou shalt not cover anything. These are not options. Thou shalt not steal. They're not options. Those are directed commands. Observing the Pesach, that's not an option. Observing Shabbat, that's not an option. So now, why all of a sudden, the man of Moses, who we refer to as the lawgiver, gets an option at this point in time? So that's something to consider, because in Shalach, the Creator says, "Send for yourself." If the Creator says, "Send for yourself," this is what you want to do. This is not what I want to do. So you brought that, and we read in Deuteronomy in the early part of that chapter of Deuteronomy, I think around 20-some verses. You can fact check me somewhere along there. That it was the people's idea before crossing over, they brought it to Moses. And just knowing the Hebrew grammar here and how it's styled, that it was the people idea to say, we should send people over there and look at the land, and before we get ready to go, because there's gonna be a campaign. So Moses thought it was a good idea. It seemed good in his eyesight. And Moses, the man of God, mind you, the man of God, brought this to the Creator. And you would say, and he had consequences. Leadership will have a lot of consequences with it. If the Creator already told us how good the land is, he already told us it's a land, that floweth with milk and honey. He already told us about certain laws we're going to be observing in the land. So, and that it's a great land, and it's promised to the patriarchs. So now could it be, and let's just throw these things out, guys in the back of their mind saying, a couple hundred years ago plus, well, our fathers came down to Egypt because things wasn't that great in the land. There was a famine in the land. But, more than plus a couple hundred years ago, it would have been difficult for 70 souls to conquer and occupy that whole land. But that's just something to consider. Moses, who talked with the Creator, he had it's not saying he don't believe in the Creator, but sometimes being a human, and it shows the flaw and weaknesses of Moses in different points. And not saying Moses, is not a great man, one of the greatest men, in our history, but he was a man. That's what it was. He was a man. So the first time he went up to get the tablets, during the sin of the golden calf, God told him the people already did turn away. They already did something already out of order. While he was up in the mountain, Moses couldn't believe his eyes until he seen it. He heard, but couldn't believe his eyes. He heard it from the Creator. He heard the revelry when he got close. But when he saw it with his eyes, it was a problem. So think about that now. Sometimes what you hear and what you see, sometimes people believe more what they see than what they hear. But this is coming from the Creator. So if the Creator tells you something, then and you heard it from, and you know it's come from God, it would seem that you should have a strong, belief factor, and knowing that God knows, and God don't have to exaggerate. Yeah, so that's one thing to think about. And then now, when we get to this point here, Moses talked with God mouth to mouth. So why he didn't say, we don't need to see anybody. God telling us to go there. God telling us about how good the land is. So I know I heard from God firsthand about the greatness of the land. So why? Then here it is that Moses, at the end of his life, also, just to think about, God said, I'm going to let you see the land. That should suffice you. But you ain't going in. Those 12, only 2 went in. So the 10 that didn't go back in, they saw the land and enter the land, but they died quickly, and Moses himself was able to see the land, but he never was able to go in. So you could think about those different topics, in that area. So now I just want to go a couple more verses. Hopefully I'll take that long. And Moses sent them from the wilderness of Paran, according to the commandment of the Lord, all them men who were heads of the children of Israel. All right. So now, what do you mean by that according to the command of God? When God says, send for yourself. The Creator wanted them to be leaders, want to be top leaders. Don't send a regular guy. Send somebody as a top leader, since, you want the land to be explored. You, Moses, agree with the people at this point in junction. So you want clearance from me. So I'm going to say, send for yourself. But you want clearance from me because you believe and think somewhat like they are. That's the one that to consider. 2, we notice when it came to the census, the Creator named those princes. When it came to the dedication, the Creator called and named those princes. When it came to this instance here, Creator didn't choose what prince Moses was going to send. This was Moses sending who he figured would be the best prince to send from each tribe. But they was leaders in their respective rights. But it was Moses, whole selection and choice to say, I'm gonna send Prince so and so from the tribe of Yehudah. I'm gonna send Prince so and so from the tribe of Reuben. I'm gonna send Prince such and such from Shalom. So out of all those tribes, except for Levi, in Manasseh and Ephraim, those princes were selected by Moses himself, not by God. Whereas when it came to the dedication, when it came to the census, those princes were selected by God. When it came at the end of the time for the parcels of land, all those were selected by God. Only one that was nominated pretty much was Caleb, being the senior prince, but not the head prince of the tribe of Yehudah, but he was the senior prince, oldest man in the tribe of Yehudah. He selected for the tribe of Yehudah. Plus, he had a portion, that's why I'm going ahead of it, but, for himself selected. So now we know the names of them. And when you look into the meaning of some of these names, you would say, not too many of these names, really, just when you get a chance to look into the meanings of the names, and you will get an idea. And the 16th verse says, these are the names of the men that Moses sent to spy out the land. So we already, the names were given. And Moses called Hoshea, the son of Nun, Joshua, which in Hebrew, Yehoshua. And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said to them, get you up here into the south and go up into the mountains and see the land. What it is, and the people that dwell in, all right, whether they be strong or weak, whether they be few or many, and what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good, whether it's good or bad, and what cities they are that they dwell in, whether in camps or in strongholds, and what the land is, whether it is fat or lean, whether there's wood therein or not. And ye be of good courage, and bring the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. So we're coming into that particular time, which when we get ready to have coming to the month of with the fourth month in the Hebrew calendar. So this is time to enter. So they gave the season of the first ripe grapes. All right, but then they mentioned three extraordinary guys, Akim, Shishai, and Timon, the children of Anak. These are famous big dudes that you only read about here. All right. And then it says, now Hebron was built 7 years before Zon in Egypt. So Hebron have a very ancient history, older than the city of Zon in Egypt. We know about that. And we know about and they came unto the valley Eshcol and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they bore it upon a pole between two. They took also of the pomegranates and of the figs. That place was called the valley Eshcol because of the cluster which the children of Israel cut down from thence. And they returned from spying out the land at the end of 40 days. All right. And they went and came to Moses and to Aaron and to all the congregation of the children of Israel unto the wilderness of Paran to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. All right, so we know it started off good. They, and what we find out here is that was this a real spy mission? Everybody know these guys' names. That's number one. Also, was it a mission that he's supposed to go on and just bring back some of the produce of the land and information about the topography of the people, not think about what strategy we need, but just see what the people look like, how they living, and then it uses the word a tree in S, one singular, which is another story I've spoken on before. What do you mean by a tree, a S, who could be possibly a unique individual in the area? And then it goes on and said in the 27th version, and try to speed this up a little bit. And they told him and said, "We came unto the land whither thou sendest us, and surely it flowed with milk and honey." Start off good. And this is the fruit of it. That's true. They haven't lied thus far. Howbeit, the people that dwelt in the land are fierce, and the cities are fortified and very great, and moreover we saw the children of Anak. Amalek dwelt in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea, along by the side of the Jordan. All right. So far, they haven't told a lie, but they told facts, but they told the facts without trying to specify in total truth about what was going on. Right? And that's the difference. See, some people bring out certain facts, but a lot of times people think of facts as truth. And as I said in the past, it's a fact that during slavery, that it was very, very difficult for a black man to get an education. It's a fact. But it's not true that every black man during slavery could not be educated. Black man could not be educated. But it's a fact. It was difficult, and they was prohibited from being educated. But it's not true that they couldn't. That black men didn't get educated during that time. And so this is similar to what they bring out here. And it goes on to say that so they're distorting certain things to build up a case. And it said, all right. So now after they said about who these guys is, they're talking about their fierce. All right. And they talk about how strong the cities are and great. And then the next thing is said, and Caleb stilled the people, YAH, towards Moses and said, "We should go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it." So what Caleb didn't do is that he didn't contradict what they said, but what they said was bent on deterring the people from going across. And that's the difference. So they're not finished yet in talking, but the people was already upset with Moses. And so Caleb spoke up. And you say, well, why Caleb, not Joshua? Well, they know Joshua is basically close to Moses. That's his minister. Moses is his mentor, immediate mentor. So it stood the reason. And Caleb himself was, a unique individual in itself. And he's one that we find out that separated himself when he said he, landed upon Hebron, came to Hebron himself. So now, when we look at what is stated here, and it said, But the men that went up with him said, we are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they spread an evil report of the land which they had spied out unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have passed to spy it out is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in the land, saw in it, are men of great stature. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come of the Nephilim, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. So now, after Caleb tried to get him to cool him down and give him the pep talk, the other guys don't want to go. Say, oh man, he messing up. He messing up the program. So now he comes strong at him, which is and this is not trying to convince Moses. Their mission is not to convince Moses. Their mission now is we don't want to go, and we got to make sure we convince the other people, because we are the leaders of the different tribes. So therefore, we don't want to go. And so we got to paint a more vivid picture of what the people are. Now, Nephilims, most likely translated by the Greeks as giants, but also Nephal means the fallen ones. So, and then it said land the swallow of inhabitants. Some got views that, there's a lot of dying going on with the people there, so they're busy going through mourning. Others is that if a land produced that bigger crop, bigger grapes and stuff like that, you must have to work it real, real hard in order for it to produce something that size. And so it's various viewpoints on those areas there. But the main thing I just want to bring out is this last point, and where it says, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. How do you see somebody else, see you through somebody else's eyes? People, when you walk up on a person, you don't know what they think about you. You might assume what they think about you, but you don't know what they think about you until they say something. But if you don't think of yourself worth anything, and you carry it like I'm not worth anything in front of a person, then they're going to look at it and agree with you. Now, the thing is, you definitely feel inferior to them. But then we was told it was 7 nations stronger and mightier than us. Each one of them was stronger and mightier. So that's no surprise. But we heard it, now they see it. And also, one of the things is when we look at the thing of a grasshopper, as I said in the past many times, a grasshopper has wings, but it do not fly. And yet it's related close to the locust family. So it got wings that do not fly, so it got a potential that it doesn't live up to. And so when we look at that area there, that they're not living up to their potential. So the 14th chapter, I'm just going to read a little bit of that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this because a couple other things I want to bring out and then go to the Ecclesiastes. 14th chapter. And all the congregation lift up their voice and cry, and the people wept that night. All night long they're crying. All right. The guys get back in the daytime, and yet they didn't stop crying all that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said unto them, would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would we had died in this wilderness? And wherefore doth the Lord bring us unto this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones will be prey. Were it not better for us to return to Egypt? And they said to one another, let us make a captain and let us return unto Egypt. In other words, they want to fire Moses and say, we're going to get somebody else to lead us back to Egypt. All right. And they act like they're concerned for their family. But their family wasn't treated that well when it was in Egypt. But now they want to go back to Egypt. Can you imagine going back to a place where you cause much havoc and devastation? That don't even make any kind of intelligent sense, where you was the cause of their devastation and you was the cause of their economy failing. You was the cause, of a lot of families losing loved ones and fathers. You was the cause of it because the Creator did that on your behalf. And yet you want to go back to that place that you was pushed out of. And then when you sing the people you were fleeing from, and you want to go back, all the things that God did for you for the whole year. So, and then you're going to fire Moses, at that time. And then it says in the 5th verse, then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh were of them that spied out the land, rent their clothes, and they spoke unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, the land which we passed through to spy it out is exceedingly good land. If the Lord delight in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it unto us, a land which floweth with milk and honey. Only rebel not against the Lord, neither fear ye the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their defense is removed from over them, and the Lord is with us. Fear them not. So now you have both Caleb and Joshua, speaking and trying to rally the people and bring them back to their senses. Because now they're upset, they're in emotion. Now they done cried all night, so now you're talking about another day of this going on, the next day. And what I want to bring out some more interesting points that I find is that in the 10th verse, but all the congregation stoned them with stones, when the glory of the Lord appeared in the tent of meeting unto all the children of Israel. Okay, that's the point I want to get to here. We had a Mishkan there, and I want to, I'm trying not to spend too much time on this, but we have the Mishkan there in that area. And since we have the Mishkan in that area, don't we have the cloud of glory, the cloud, pillar of cloud of showing God's presence in the daytime and pillar of fire at night? So now, why we get, Anakavod, the cloud of glory, at this particular spot, that shows that the presence of the Creator is there over the tabernacle. They talking rebellion. So sometimes they see, but they don't see. If you know that cloud that's over the tabernacle, and you just made a march, that it shows a presence of God, and yet you close your eyes to it and the cloud didn't disappear, and yet you don't fear God at that time when they told you to fear God and not rebel against God, at that time. So what are you actually looking at? And that should be reflected back on the 12 guys, the 10 guys, the scouts that went over into the land. That you've seen things from a negative perspective. You didn't see things from a positive perspective. Here it is that they have the cloud of the Most High over the tabernacle. It's only when it becomes the glory of the Creator. So it had to change whatever form it was. Maybe it was a cloud with fire beaming out, whatever it is. I don't know. I wasn't there. But when it said the glory of the Creator appeared, the tabernacle still is there. Moses and Aaron buy the tabernacle. So therefore, and we know they surround the tabernacle. They encamped around it. So now, if that cloud is still there, it had to make a certain type of change where you say, wow, something going on up there now. Now we paying attention. All right? Because now they don't just want to get rid of and fire Moses. they want to destroy Moses, Aharon, Caleb, and Yehoshua. So they want to stone 4 people. And now the Creator step in. Just talking about going away, walking away, the Creator didn't step in yet. When they complain and murmur, the Creator didn't step in yet. But now you're going to talk about executing judgment on the innocent, the people that actually is standing up on behalf of the Creator. Now the Creator going to show, show himself and reveal himself, because you ain't paying attention to where you at, who you talking about, and what you're about to do. So this is very impactful here. And it's very rare you ever hear about the cloud of glory coming in and appearing. So, and it says, but we normally see a cloud, pillar of fire, or a cloud, in the day and a pillar of fire at night. And 11 verse said, and the Lord said to Moses, how long will this people despise me? And how long will they not believe in me for all the signs which I have wrought among them? That's rhetorical. The Creator knows the end of everything before it exists. But he's setting up a stage right here. And I'm trying to be a little bit faster in this here. I will smite them with the pestilence and destroy them. All right. The ver is actually a plague that they use in Egypt, diseases. When you talk about disease, that's used one of the plagues of Egypt. The place that they talk about going back, he's telling Moses, that's what I'm hitting with. And it said, and destroy them, and I will make of thee a nation greater and mightier than they. Now, we know Caleb and Joshua and Aaron didn't turn, but yet the majority of people returned. So it is, but this is one of the serious things that God said, look, I'm gonna keep my promise. I'm gonna make a nation of you. This is the second time, because the descendant of golden calf, he will make a nation of Moses. So it said, and Moses said unto the Lord, when the Egyptians shall hear of, for they brought us up. All right, let me start over. And Moses said unto the Lord, when the Egyptians shall hear, for thou broughtest up this people and thy might from among them, they will say to the inhabitants of this land, who have heard that thou art, that thou, Lord, art in the midst of this people, inasmuch as thou, Lord, art seen face to face, and thy cloud standeth over them, and thou goest before them in a pillar of cloud by day, and in a pillar of fire by night. Now, if thou shalt kill this people as one man, then the nations will have heard the fame of thee, will speak, and saying, because the Lord was not able to bring this people into the land which he swore unto them, therefore he hath slain them in the wilderness. Now, I just want to stop there for a minute, because this is a plea, again, that Moses stand up for the nation of Israel. And he had the opportunity again to replace them. In 18th verse, I'm just going to read this out because I'm looking at my time. And the Lord is slow to anger and plenteous in loving kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgression. And that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, upon the third and upon the fourth generation. Pardon, I pray thee, the iniquities of this people, according unto the greatness of thy loving kindness, and according as thou hast forgiven this people from Egypt even unto now. Before I go into the next part, I'd like to bring out a few things here in comparison. And We know at the sin of the golden calf, Moses was willing to sacrifice his life for the people. Here, you don't find Moses willing to sacrifice his life for the people in this stage of the game. But, basically, a little short of a year ago, Moses was willing to give his life if God didn't forgive the people, and instead of destroying them. Now, you will ask, why would Moses at that time would give his life for the people and not give his life for the people at this point in time? Those are something to consider, because he didn't bring that out. And then one of the things that we look at is that here he said similar what people are going to say, but more specifically what the Egyptians would say, and not only the Egyptians would say, he pointed out a particular nation, and so when he brought out a particular nation, what the Egyptians would say, that they acknowledge that God was amongst his people. All right. So the Egyptians saying, letting you know that they had a God that's with them, that did things for them. So the Egyptians acknowledge that they have their God. That's a real God, not a false God that acted and take a part. And yet they would, say stuff against the Creator. And then not only that, the other nations. So what Moses is bringing out, I'm going to have to speed this up just a little bit, is that the biggest difference is that Moses make a point of Egypt's going to say one thing, and the nation going to say another thing. Because when he did the damage in Egypt, God didn't destroy all the Egyptians. Now you're going to destroy a whole people that you consider your people, except for one individual. And then the Egyptians didn't say that they don't deserve or God would be wrong, but he heard that they wouldn't comply and submit fully when the main thing was to come and worship and serve this God. So the Egyptian would be seen to be proven right, and that they come to serve God, and this God here pull him out and then help him in the system. They couldn't control him. And Egypt, we're talking about the promise now. We're talking about the other nations going to hear that. Because now it's not just the Egyptian talking, but the other nations going to speak as well. And what God they're going to say, they ain't going to see it like for the way it is in actual truth. They're going to say it and see it from a different perspective, that God destroyed a whole nation because Egypt was one nation, and he beat Egypt down and did all that damage to Egypt. But now you're going to face 31 kingdoms, 31 kings on the other side of the Jordan. So you're going to have to deal with 31 different nations on the other side. So beating one nation down is one thing, but you're talking about this people beating down 31, the other nation figure, and maybe that's too much for God. 31 is just too many. And these people are not ready. So this is what Moses is bringing out, that they're going to see it different. And then the final thing is, God, you can't keep your word. You can't keep your promise. They ain't going to say one man, God would be keeping the promise with one man and making him into another nation. They're not going to see that Moses going to be that one man and God going to make him into another nation. They're going to say, God, their God could not keep his promise to bring those people back all the way across. So they're going to look and see God as a covenant breaker. So that's how serious it is. So Moses bringing out this point. It's not that the people don't deserve it. And he said, you forgave them before, continue to do this here, being, Erekapayim, which is slow, slow to anger, So he exercised, let that be so, not that they don't deserve what you want to bring out, but you just can't do it immediately all at once and just, and destroy a complete people when you didn't destroy a complete nation of Egypt. So now the 26th verse, it said, and the Lord spoke to Moses and unto Aaron, saying, how long shall I bear with this evil congregation, that they keep murmuring against me? And I heard them, the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they keep murmuring against me. Saying to them, as I live, said the Lord, surely as you have spoken in my ears, so will I do to you, and your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness. And all that were number of you, according to your whole number, from 20 years old and upward, ye that have murmured against me, surely ye shall not come into the land concerning which I lift up my hand, that I would make you dwell therein, save Caleb the son of Yehudah, and Yehoshua the son of Nun. But your little ones that ye said would be a prey, them will I bring in, and they shall know the land which ye have rejected. But as for you, your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness, and your children shall be wandering in the wilderness 40 years, and you shall bear your strain until your carcasses be consumed in the wilderness, after the number of the days in which you have spied out the land, even 40 days. For every day a year shall ye bear your iniquities, even 40 years, and ye shall know my displeasure. I, the Lord, have spoken. Surely this will I do unto all this evil congregation that are gathered together against me in this wilderness. They shall be consumed, and there they shall die. And the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land, and who, when they returned, made it the congregation murmur against him by bringing up an evil report against the land, even those men that did bring up an evil report of the land died by the plague before the Lord. They died immediately. But Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Yehudah remained alive of those men that went to spy out the land. And Moses told these words unto all the children of Israel, and the people mourned greatly. And they rose up early in the morning. They went to go out there and fight and got beat down. All right, so I'm not going to speak much more on that area there. I just want to bring out that portion that after they get pronounced a death march, then they want to go up. Because now they say you're going to die here. So imagine 40 years is a long time, but it's a short time for a guy that's 20. And, and he say, oh, I only got 40 years, I'm only going to make 60, but that's still a little bit of mercy, because if he died in the 40th year, he made 60, he got a little bit of a run. But a guy that's 40 already, which we find out that Caleb and them was in their 40s already, then 40 years in the 80s, so that's even showing mercy there if you made it that long and died in the 40th year. So what about guys in their 50s? It had to be people that was able to go to war. So if it was a guy in his 50, then he didn't make the whole 40 track. Then they were to attribute to old age. So even in that, God's showing some kind of mercy in that. But it's a penalty that's being brought. And he said the promise is going to be kept for the children that you worried about so much, and you threw up and say that they're going to be victims. So this is one of the things we find here. So we find that in this particular portion that God said, I live, I like to always say, when they say, Kayani, I like to say, God, I am life. I am life. So God also is stressing this part when he make his declaration concerning this incident with the children of Israel. So therefore, though they think they're murmuring against the Creator, they're murmuring against they're murmuring against Moses and Aaron and himself. God saying, "You murmuring against me. It's all about me that you hate and this my displeasure." So, and it says so many times that Moses recognized that these people keep messing up. Our people keep messing up over and over again. So this time he didn't put his life on the line. He appealed to God with where they say what the other people will think and say, and that's what he appealed to. But God saying, I'm still going to execute that judgment, but there's going to be a measures. So we go when we find in this particular portion, you get diverse laws of offerings here, but one of the things you find out is the kalado. You find that in the 15th chapter, the 17th verse, and God starts speaking about the land and laws concerning the land after these people's on a death march. So they're on a death march. And now God's talking about some laws concerning the other side of the land that you can't implement, and talk about even baking dough. When you bake your dough, that the first of your dough you take out. But that's where the word kala come from, which also means a bride. And that's one of the things that they do when they take one of the first of your doughs when you make it. So not only it's grain, so we grow the wheat, we bring a portion of the wheat. When we process the wheat, and make it into a dough, we bring the first of the dough, in there before we make the bread. And then also we bring up bread later on. So it's always a process. We're working in every step and every step of the way. When we have our grain, from what we change it to, the first of that, and to our final product of it, the first of that. We keep bringing up. So this is where you get the thing of kala. And then it talks about when the congregation, sins through ignorance. We got that law already. And we find out, I'm going to finish off where it says a Shabbat breaker. All right, a Shabbat breaker, he's stoned for picking up sticks on the Shabbat. So now we don't know. His name is anonymous. People give him a name, but rabbinically, but his name is anonymous in this particular portion here. And you figure, now, why is it that you're gonna have a lot of issues going on? Talking about the Shabbat, when you can't go, you're gonna be there for 40 years until you die out. If you're 20 years old and you was in that count. So now you're gonna be on a death march. So what is the purpose of continuing trying to observe law? Somebody violated, and they knew it was a death penalty, because we read about that in the book of Leviticus. When you violate the Shabbat, they don't say how you're going to leave, whether it be hanging, stoning, whatever the case is. But the people knew he violated, and they apprehended him. So it wasn't Moses. It was men found them and brought him into Moses. We don't know what they're doing out there looking for him to do, but that's another story. And then the last thing, after we talk about this individual being stoned to death, and then command anybody to violate the Shabbat, the penalty of stoning. Then we get the law of ZCs. And one of the things, we get a specific law of ZCs. That's what the portion ends off. And one of the most interesting things is that most people, in the ancient culture, had garments with corners on it, but we had to make it unique. And the ZCs is basically only if you have corners. If you don't have corners, he had to use the word kanafot, and kanfot is wings, extremities, like a bird wings, and talk about the extremities of the corners. And we have other terms that's used for corners, like payah for the corners of the fields, that we talk about. So we use that when they talk about your head, cut, around the corners of your head. Use that same word, payas. But BINAH is a corner, and that's the word for a corner. And here it is. We got the fringes got to be a quarter blue on it, that it says here. In the book of Deuteronomy, it don't give you specify a quarter blue, but it specifies that it's being made. That's why you might see people just with fringes with no quarter blue on it. Here is a specific law that's given by the Creator in the book of Bamidbar. And Deuteronomy is Moses telling us how to make them, what they should basically look like, in Deuteronomy. And he don't mention the quarter blue in that particular portion. So, and it's one of the things about the fringes is that it's so much important that it's to remind you of all the laws of God and do them. So that's why you wear them on the corners, to remind you of all the laws of God and do them. Now, do what applies to you, but you got to know when somebody is violating a law of God. So when you have fringes on your garments all the time, it's saying that I'm constantly thinking about what God desires, what his law is. Is when you don't have fringes on your garments all the time, then it's okay, it's possibly I can remember what the law is, but it's not going to be a consciousness of law. See, some people have a thing about saying we do things by rote. And I'm saying, just like we develop bad habits, then develop a good habit, because there's more for you. Some people say we pray by rote. We do use certain prayers in the prayer book, but you develop a good habit that's going to benefit you. So even if you praying by rote, when you say bless the name of the Creator, that's a good thing. That's never a bad thing. Is when you go through a day when you haven't even said bless the name of the Creator or thank God for anything, then that is where you start to fall away, because you might say, oh, I forgot to say a prayer before my meal. I forgot to say thank God for waking me up. I forgot to say thank God for allowing me to get to work on time or safe, hurt, harm, and danger, and without me causing hurt, harm, and danger to somebody else. And traveling, about these kids. Thank God that my children was able to make it to school safe. Thank God they was able to come back. So we don't think about it all the time. So with fringes, anytime your hand brush by or you see somebody else with that, you're going to think about what command that I overlooked today that I'm able to do that's incumbent upon me and related to God. So that's the importance of fringes. We're going to go into the book of Ecclesiastes, the 7th chapter. I know I spent a little time here, a little long, so I'm going to just read a good portion of it. And in the book of Kohelet, Ecclesiastes, 7th chapter. But when we go into the book of the Torah that goes along with it, you find out Joshua sent the guys secretly for a specific mission of conquest, strategy to be able to conquer the land, where you find also something unique in that book of Joshua in the Torah is that though Joshua sent them out to make a reconnaissance of the land, we don't, and they call, scouts as well. We don't know who they are. We don't know. They were sent to check out the people more so, because they're getting ready to make a conquest. And since we don't know who they are, one of the things that we find unique is that Joshua allowed those guys to make a covenant with people of the land when we was told not to make any covenants with those peoples of the land. So that's something to think about in the Torah. And remember, we're coming into the time of Shoftim, judges with Joshua. So those guys, the unknown named spies, who rabbinically they give names to them, when they enter the land, they make this covenant with Rahab and concerning her and her family. Then they brought that back to Joshua. So we were supposed to annihilate everybody there, not take any prisoners. So that's something to think about, and you can discuss among your various teachers, that why would Joshua think complete annihilation, even if they made, why would these guys even make a commitment such as that? And so you're going to find some unique exceptions in the scriptures when you deal with the time at Shoftim, as we, and differences of treating a certain law, where the law was not to make any kind of covenant with him. All right. I just wanted to point that out as we go forward. 7th chapter of Ecclesiastes.
We're in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, called Helet. A good name is better than precious oil, and the day of death than the day of one's birth.
Wow. And that's something. Now, that seemed kind of strange because all are struggling to live. Now, we all want a good name, because if you got a bad name, all us that got credit cards, we know, when you miss a few payments and stuff like that, or don't pay on time, and one company, you owe one person, you can owe one person. They put you in a bank, in a system that everyone knows. Everyone knows that you're not good for credit, and and you're assassinated with that. They make money on people's misery by saying, "Let me see if we can fix your credit." So the thing is that a good name is important even back then. It said it's better than precious oil, and in the day of death than the day of one's birth. Now, death, you finish. You don't have to worry about anything. As far as bills, no more bills coming for you. That's for sure. And whatever bill it takes to move you and put you someplace, you ain't got to worry about that either. So, but when mom's birth, you constantly depending on people, and you constantly struggling to live. You're constantly trying to say, well, I'm looking for a comfort zone. And death, there's no more worries like that. So Solomon picks a stream here, but go ahead, read the next, put down to the 6.
It reads, verse 2. It says, "It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting. For that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart.
Keep going.
Vexation is better than laughter, for by the sadness of the countenance the heart may be gladdened.
Keep going.
The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth.
Keep going.
It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools.
Keep going.
For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This also is vanity."
Okay, right then and there. Now, this heading here, talking about bags of sorrow and rebuke. Now, we know it's better to go to the house of mourning than the house of feasting, but it's not better to go to the house of mourning than go to a congregation where you have Sabbath teachings at, Shabbat teachings at. So, a lot of people will go out their way, pay for transportation, may put on a special outfit, travel, across state lines to go to a funeral. And some people won't go down the block to a congregation on Shabbat to worship the Creator. So it's only better to go to that than to go to a party, because by the same token, people get more set up and plan for a party, than they go to a funeral, and the Creator, Solomon himself is letting you know that, that's the end of all men. So you want to know, how this person is treated on his, who talks about him, what people think about you. You learn more about what people think about another individual when they're in the box. You learn more about it. And some people would fabricate some things concerning the individual in the box, and you can't say, well, that's wrong or that's right. But but it's still it shows that the ultimate thing is that you have a concern for another individual, and that an individual can show no more concern for you. Whereas in the house of feasting, the only concern is yourself. You know, what can I enjoy? And that's why it's bringing out, you know, and it's talking about the heart of the wise is in the house in the morning. All right. So that means right then and there, you're thinking about how does the person reflect his life. We always have this thing about the dash between the date of birth and the date of death. That dash is what most people emphasize and speak on. All right. 7th verse.
Verse 7, it reads, surely oppression turneth a wise man into a fool, and a gift destroyeth the understanding.
All right, right then and there. All right. How is oppression turneth a wise man into a fool? You know, how did oppression do that? You know, one of the things is that if, you know, if you know, you figure the guy's wise already, so you run through some hard times. But then if you run through somebody that's really pressing him, all right, really pressing him hard, and he say, well, I can't think of anything to get out of this, he would change, you know. And so when you talk about oppression turning into a wise man to a fool, if he was a wise man to begin with, he should be a wise man even in the hard times, you know, in that area. But some people say, well, forget about all this wisdom. This ain't helping me now. I'm on survival mode. And they do anything to survive. And you find people like that. When things get tight and straight, we find it in our history where we even had cannibalism amongst our people because of oppression. We know it ain't right. We know it should be another way, but we used to go ahead and go into that mode. And so the gift destroyeth the understanding. All right. Keep on.
Verse 8 reads, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit.
Okay, right then and there. All right. First of all, being patient. All right. According to the census dealing with the scouts exploring the land on foot, some would say it would take basically 80 days. They go through all the parts of Israel on foot, and they did it in half the time for some reason. You know, that's what some of the census say. All right, to explore and look all the regions. Also, we might have been doing 80 years instead of 40 years. But here it is that when we look at it, you know, in that area there, you know, that sometimes we got to be more patient. You know, and we read where patience is a virtue. So it's better than a proud in spirit. A person that's proud may not have no accomplishments, may not accomplish anything, and may not, you know, it's like some of the homeless guys stand up there in the corner and, or do whatever they do, you know, because they lose their mind somewhat. I would say they lose their mind. They think themselves as proud, you know. I remember some of us, we used to watch these comedies where a guy would put on, you know, a suit jacket or a coat, and all he had is a collar, a little bib, and he has some sleeves to his coat, and he walk, you know, get a hat, dust it off, you know, got some shoes, wipe it down, you know, and you got patches in the pants, but the coat was going over it, and go in there and act like they, you know, they're wealthy, you know. And this is what it's talking about here, you know. Patient, you know, in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. All right. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry. That's important. For anger rests in the bosom of a fool. A lot of times we got to think things out. That's what we do. Sometimes people don't take the time to think things out. I always try my best, more so these days and times, to see if it's an upside to a situation, a better side to a situation. it's easy for me to find a negative side for a situation, and especially if I don't like it, it's easy to find that negative side. But the thing is, I'm saying, well, I'm being taught a lesson. What can I learn from this? Why is this happening now? So this is why sometimes you got to exercise that patience. All right, keep going.
Verse 10,
10.
it reads, Say not thou, how was it that the former days were better than these? For it is not out of wisdom that thou inquirest concerning this.
Ain't that something? Some days are gone. We hear it so much today, the good old days. I tell them, I say, I ain't trying to look for the good old days. I'm here today. You know what I mean? I'm trying looking for tomorrow to be better. I want each day to be better. I want each day to be progressive. So the thing is that what I did or what happened in the past, that's in the past. I can't bring that back. I can't live off of that. I need to live off of what I'm doing from this moment onward. If I'm looking to improve. So the thing is that, when we think about the good old days and you hear so much, and somebody there saying, I'm not going to try to progress any further. That's what you're actually saying, because you're focusing behind you. But when you think about the future and progressing, all right, surely you may not be, as fit as you was in one point in time, agile as you was in one point in time. Your body go through changes and, over a period of time. But because your body going in changes, you could say, and should look at it as I'm developing more in time. I see things more in time, because now I could make a better projection. When it comes to language, the first thing they teach you in a foreign language is the present tense. That's what they mostly teach you in the foreign language, the present tense. Then the next thing they teach you is the past tense. Then later on, they teach you the future tense. A child learns just that way. They know what they want in the now. They know what to say no to from experience. And what they don't want, they know from experience. They gain a certain amount of experience, because they develop a memory. But to develop a thought pattern of a future, that takes development. So that's what we got to look forward to. Go ahead, continue.
Verse 11, Wisdom is good with an inheritance, yea, a profit to them that see the sun.
Keep going.
For wisdom is a defense, even as money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom preserveth the life of him that have it.
Okay, right then and there. So sometimes you could get over by what you know. So when we talk about, the Kabbalah acronym, and D.C.B acronym, is, normally would say, CHOKMAH BINAH, for, one area, but the Kabbalah, they would say, CHOKMAH, and BINAH, and others would say, D.C.B, CHOKMAH, and BINAH. But all those is what you need as a defense, because that's all you would have, and that money, is a defense in a certain part, but that is always something that you can use no matter where you go, because even a slave, when he exercises certain intelligence, he'll make the master think that he's working for him. That's what a slave would do that has that kind of wisdom, because he'll make the master think he's working for him, but yet he's influencing the master to serve his purpose. Continue. 13.
Verse 13 reads, Consider the work of God, for who can make that straight, which he have made crooked?
Keep going.
In the day of prosperity, be joyful, and in the day of adversity, consider. God
Keep
hath
going.
made even the one as well as the other, to the end that man shall find nothing after him.
Keep going.
All things have I seen in the days of my vanity. There is a righteous man that perisheth in his righteousness, and there's a wicked man that prolongeth his life in his evil doing.
All right, Solomon said, I seen this. That's what he's saying. I seen this stuff. But what happened? What did he say in the 16th verse?
Verse 16 reads, Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself?
Some people go to the extreme. That's all, to the extreme. But you could say, okay, all right, it's the Shabbat. I happened to pass by. All right, somebody house for some reason on fire, and they stuck in the house. All right, they already got a corpse in the house. This is a Shabbat. Do I go? I don't want to get defile myself because this is the Lord's day. Or somebody slipped down into a pond. You could swim, but you're on your way to a congregation to serve God, and yet a person is drowning that can't swim and asking for help, and they say, well, the Lord better save him because I'm about the Lord's business. You have people like that in the past, and that's what it's saying about being over righteous. You think of yourself as being that way, not that God does, and they're over wise. Some people think they could fool the very elect, even God. Can God prepare a table in the wilderness? That's what we said. If he's God and he created something from nothing and he created you, we ask, can he prepare a table in the wilderness? We've seen the wonders in Egypt, but can he do that? Something that's a little easier compared to what we experience. But this is our people. Continue. 18.
17.
7.
Be not overmuch wicked, neither be thou foolish. Why shouldest thou die before thy time?
Okay, keep going.
It
Consequences.
is good that thou shouldest take hold of the one, yea, also from the other withdraw not thy hand. For he that feareth God shall discharge himself of all of them.
Okay, keep going.
Of them all. Wisdom is a stronghold to the wise man, more than 10 rulers that are in the city. For there is not a righteous man upon earth that doeth good, and sinneth not.
I just want to bring that out one point because everybody making mistakes. We read about Moses' mistakes. Read about Abraham's mistakes. Everybody in the book, the man that's telling us and writing this down, he telling us about his mistakes. So, so he ain't saying I'm righteous. He just, I just got some wisdom. I learned a few things, and that's what's important. All right, 21.
Verse 21 reads, Also take not heed unto all the words that are spoken, lest thou hear thy servant curse thee. For oftentimes also thine own heart knoweth that thou thyself likewise hast cursed others.
And sometimes people rub you wrong, and you call them some names, what I mean? So, and sometimes just be out of frustration. They might be frustrated about something else, and you just had to say something or do something, and next thing you know, it's about something else they're frustrated with, and they come at you and say some things they really not intending to say, but you remind them of a situation, so they would say some things in reference to that. And that's why it says, if you got a servant, you're gonna piss. I mean, you're upset. You're gonna upset a servant every now and then. You're gonna upset them every now and then. So therefore, you might be in a bad mood, and they're gonna say some things, and they don't control themselves. They don't think of time. Take time. So you're trying to listen to every word. You're gonna hear the wrong things about yourself that you don't like, and then you're gonna come on them. Don't you know when I used to punish my children, I tried not to hear them after I done put some punishment on them, because I know they ain't in a good mood with me. I know that automatically. So why I want to listen and hear what they got to say next? Because they're gonna be upset, and they might say something. I wish you go somewhere, whatever the case is, because might have tore their behind up, stop them from doing something like that there, and they griping. And if you say, what you say? I ain't say nothing. You got to give them a pass because it's going to cause you to do more, and not understanding that they're in torment, but you're doing it for their good. It's like people, when God brings bad things upon us, we would ask God, why you got to do this to me? Like that. I don't like that. Continue.
Verse 23, all this have I tried by wisdom, I said. I will get wisdom, but it was far from me. That which is far off and exceeding deep, who can find it out? I turned about and applied my heart to know and to search out and to seek wisdom and the reason of things, and to know wickedness to be folly and foolishness to be madness.
Hold on right there. All right. I just want to speak on this here particular portion in the 7th chapter. A lot of times, I remember this brother, asked me about, about the red heifer, and many years ago, and say, we think about the reason why all this here, the red heifer. Every time somebody do something to clean somebody up there unclean, then I use this verse here. That Solomon used in the 23rd verse of the 7th chapter, and said, all this have I tried by wisdom. I said, I will get wisdom, but it was far from me. That's a relationship to understanding everything that God does in the earth, especially when we refer to as the red heifer. How it works like that, other than God say so. We don't see any kind of ream or reason for it. And this is the wisest man that will ever live, and it's just some things I just can't figure out, So you always remember 7:23, that verse, that Solomon let you know there's some things he could not figure out, other things he explained he figured out, and he said, I turned about and applied my heart to know and to search out and to seek wisdom and the reason of things, and to know wickedness to be folly and foolishness to be madness. All right. He experienced that. Can you imagine a teacher telling you that he lived his life like that? And he's a king? Continue.
Verse 26. And I find more bitter than death the woman, whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands is bands, whoso pleaseth God shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her.
Hold right there before we go to 27. That's what he's saying. An experienced man. Because it said a king should not multiply wives unto themselves, lest they turn their heart. Solomon thought, hey, with all this wisdom, who can turn my heart? But yet he did. That's why he experienced a lot of stuff. And he's talking from his experience in most instances, as opposed to somebody else's experience. He witnessed a lot of things in life, but he also went firsthand to experience those things. All right. Can you imagine guys say, I'm gonna take some drugs and see how it is? Or you see police guys, say, well, look, let me see how strong that taser is. Hit me with it, with the taser. Say, hit me with it. I want to see how it is. Or one that most people could identify with. Let me see what that bitter herb horseradish, let me see how much I can chew down without, crying and coughing up and gagging. That kind of stuff. People do things like that. But 27 verse.
Verse 27 reads, behold, this have I found, saith Koheleth, adding one thing to another to find out the account, which yet my soul sought, but I found not. One man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all those have I not found.
All right there. Mm-hmm. Before we get to the last verse, he used his name. Among some, he said, behold, this I have found, said Koheleth, adding one thing to another. All right. So he identifies himself. He said, I want you to know this is me personally doing this here. I ain't sent nobody to check it out. So this is one of the rare times you read Solomon using his pen name, so to speak. as Kohelet in the book of Kohelet. You find out in the beginning he used it, and then here is one of the other rare times you find out that he used this name. And he said, and he made an assessment, but he said he only found one man, of 1,000. All right, but he said about the man, one man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman of all those I have not found. All right, but found in doing what? That he could depend on. And if he said he only found one man out of 1,000, that's a poll. That's a census. Where you took your poll from? That's number one. Number two is the thing. It's not saying all women are. I know a brother used to say, well, there was only one righteous man in the earth. After that, but Solomon couldn't find that one righteous woman. Guys misread that verse, bring it out like that, and it's far from what Solomon is saying there. He talked from his experience and said, and if Solomon didn't find it, that didn't mean it wasn't there. We read later on the prophet Elijah thought he was the last guy. If something happened to him, God is out of business. Solomon letting you know that this is what he sought after. Last verse.
Verse 29 reads, "Behold, this only have I found, that God made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions." Hallelujah.
All right. So he gives credit to the Creator. And in the very end, he gives the credit to the Creator. Said, look, even the Creator said about one of the nation about Ephraim, and about us. How did he become a degenerate seed when I planted? No. How you become a degenerate vine when I planted a pure seed? So this is God had made man upright, but we the ones that try to turn this way and turn that way from the first man onward. So hope you got something on what I said. Any mistakes been my own, and I know I went kind of fasting at Kohelet, but I spent a little time in Shelach, but the saga going to still continues. So with that, I'm saying Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom. Any mistakes been my own.
Hallelujah. Torah by Nasik. Thank you all for listening. Shabbat Shalom Aleichem. And may the Most High God continue to bless each and every one of you. Shalom, shalom. Hallelujah.
Let's get all his wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, his laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, his laws and commandments. The CHOKMAH BINAH here to push it through your speakers.